Hey guys, happy Saturday. Welcome back to another video. In case you're new here, my name is Kim. This is Core Union. I want to talk about instant manifestation today. I know a lot of you can get really impatient with yourselves or annoyed with your reality, frustrated because you've been doing the inner work, but you're not seeing any evidence that what you're doing is working. This is what everybody goes through, but instant manifestation is everything is always, it's beyond instant. The moment that you actually accept what it is that you desire. So you become aware of your desire because it already exists. The moment you accept, allow for yourself to trust and believe and be conscious of being the version of you who has it, then you remain faithful to it because in the 3D, there are everything that is happening for you is happening whether you see it or not. Creation is already done. What you're creating consciously is the experience to be revealed to you. That's the only part that you're actually creating, but it's more that you're selecting it and then trusting in it and allowing it. So when I shared, for example, I shared with you that years ago, I had a desire to live in a dream home, a beautiful dream home with vaulted ceilings, a giant stone fireplace, stainless steel appliances, like everything that I wanted, a beautiful yard in this beautiful, wealthy town that was like my favorite place to go and visit, where I wanted to have my business. I shared with you when I opened my first couple versions of my interior design business, when I had nothing, no reason, no degree, no experience, I desired being in this town that I'm referring to, but I didn't think that I was worthy of it. I didn't think I was ready for it. I didn't think that my business was good enough for it because this was a market, a real estate market that even wealthy people, it was known to be hard to find a home to live in because things would sell before they even reached the market. Like, in other words, that was that the real estate market was that hard. And as far as the businesses, it was a small, like one of those perfect, quaint, charming small towns that everybody loves. The energy was really good. And even stores that are established had a hard time getting spaces. I had my store in a city that was actually very challenging for businesses. After I went to this place just hanging around and having fun and looked at the storefront that was all glass and felt that's my new home for the business. Not long, like literally very soon after, the owner of the buildings, of almost all of the buildings in that downtown area, this was the person who owned almost all of the retail storefronts. A lot of real estate belonged to this person. And they traveled and came to me. They drove 45 minutes to an hour to come and see me at my store to see if I wanted my retail store in that location that I happened to come across. And when I saw it, I had a piercing feeling in my core. The thing that you guys think happened is that I made that happen, that somehow my thoughts landed into this person's mind, which then made them want to come to me. But in all actuality, before I even was born, a reality existed where I did have a business in that town. So in other words, before I even had the desire to quit my secure safety net job and start my own business, listen to my soul, because I wanted to prove that manifestation was real, my business already existed. An iteration of it existed in that storefront. And then I became aware of it when I felt the desire, but it already existed. And then because I didn't have too much resistance around the entire thing, then that unfolded almost immediately in my reality. I didn't have the money. I wasn't making any money. I didn't have the money to be able to hire people to move all of the furniture, to move from one city to another. I didn't have the manpower to do that. I didn't have the money to renovate the storefront that I was referring to. Everything that I needed ended up unfolding for me. The money, when I needed the money, it was there. I remember wanting people to feel when they walked into the interior design showroom that it was like kind of like this feeling that they've never felt before when they walked into a store. I wanted people to feel this energy of this inspiration. Like there's an edginess to it, but it's also like something they've never experienced before. And when people came into the store, that's what they told me that they felt. So, did I somehow influence these people's minds with my thoughts? No, because I could feel from the end of that and embody how that would feel to have this unique space that was not only beautiful to walk into, but that it smelled good and that every single thing that I sold, no matter whether it was somebody's specific taste or not, there wasn't one thing in the store that was cheap or that wasn't, that somebody couldn't say, wow, this place is, there's not one thing in this place that I don't love. So anyway, the store became irresistible. The person came to me. I ended up with all of the finances and the funding that I needed to make the move. And the moment that I moved the store into that city, it's like the floodgates opened. Why? Because I always belonged in that city. When I chose to open the business in these other cities that I was describing at first, when it was very challenging, it's because there was a part of me that wasn't accepting something that already existed. I wasn't seeing my value and worth. I wasn't seeing that, I could afford to live here and to have my business here. I wasn't good enough for it. But then when I went on that walk that day and I felt this feeling in the core of me, I accepted it. I had went and I looked at an open house for like $1 million home. I wasn't making any money hardly. So anyway, the way I started this session today was I had referred to also having my dream home, right? So now uh, I'm moving my retail space into this new retail space in this dream city of mine. I wanted to do everything. I wanted one fell swoop. I just wanted to move my home and the business at the same time. All the lights coming in now. And I ended up moving into this place that was right on the water. So that part was nice. It had water views. It was a 5-minute walk from downtown. So that was a plus also. It did have reclaimed, like vaulted ceilings and reclaimed beams. And it had hardwood floors and a fireplace and all of that great stuff. So there were some pluses, but it also had a bad mold problem in the basement. Snow and soot would come into the windows. I was getting sick. There were a lot of problems. I literally was having hip problems because it was such an old antique home that the floors were crooked. This is when I was sleeping on the mattress on the floor, looking at cardboard boxes. I mean, having cardboard boxes as my nightstands. So, in my energy, I was identifying with the version of me who was living in that dream home. I wasn't upset that thinking I failed because now I'm in this home in my dream city, but this home has all these problems. No, I was thankful and grateful. I was also, when I would see the things that I was describing, I would revise it. I would see myself in the beautiful home and even moments when I was very upset and angry with a lot of the things, and I didn't even share a lot of the things because it's pointless. So a little time passed by. I didn't stop living in my dream home with my dream furniture, even though I was also always I was under a lease with this place, right? I was angry, I was upset, but I was still consistent and persisting and living from embodying being in the dream home. So one day it was snowing pretty bad. I walked to work. I was so pissed off and angry. And a client of mine who he was So I'm going to be a little more elaborate with this because when I first made this video years ago, then some of what I said was misinterpreted. So I'm going to be more clear with this. There was this young man who became a millionaire at a pretty young age. He lost his wife. He had a special needs son. He was married and he was one of those people who was known in the community. He would he didn't work full time because he was wealthy. And he was just one of those people. He would walk to all of the small town, the small businesses in town, and bring his son because he was wanting his son to have that social stimulation with people. We became friends, we became close, and he really cared about me, and I cared about him too. And I cared about his son and his wife as well. So, that day, I, I'm in the store and I was pissed off and he said, "What's wrong?" And I told him what was going on and how frustrated I was with the house. And he said, "Well, you can just move into my house." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he told me he just bought a brand new home. So he has his home that he has, and he also already bought another home, but he was being lazy and he needed something to motivate him to move out. He told me about the house, where it was. He gave me the address. I looked at it online and it was pretty much my dream house. So I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "No." And so he said, basically, "This will motivate me. My wife will be happy. It'll motivate me to actually pack up and leave." So I said, "Well, how much would this be?" And he said, "Well, how much are you paying now?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, that's how much you can pay me." And then it became a rent to lease, a lease to own contract, basically. So within a short amount of time, I basically moved out and moved into this new dream home. And so now I was living in the dream home that I was seeing myself in before, even though there was this little other temporary space. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is when I had the desire to live and have my business in this dream city, but I thought I wasn't good enough, I was staying small. When I finally went and I was just having fun and I accepted what was in the core of me, that already existed. It already existed that I was even living in the dream home. When I moved into the home that was pretty much not my dream home, everything was still getting lined up with the dream home. Okay, so in other words, there was always things happening because it always existed where I was going to have my business and my home in this dream city. So manifestation is instant, but when you don't think you're good enough, you don't think you're worthy, you don't think it's really realistic for you to be able to have the relationship with your mirror soul, the wealth that you deserve, the home that you deserve, the relationship with other people's, the successful business, the best-selling books, the best-selling artwork. If you want to become an engineer, a doctor, an attorney, or if you want to become a coach, if you want to, like, you could just go down the list. Whatever you want already exists before you even realized it. And then when you have the desire, it means that you are ready for it. But then your limiting beliefs will come up, and then you're given a choice. You're given a choice to stay small or to allow yourself to grow, to allow yourself to evolve into who you already are. So, in the examples that I just gave you, even though there was linear time that passed before the person who owned practically all of the real estate in my dream city, even though there was time that passed, there was linear time that passed before she came into the store. Don't you think that she's a pretty smart woman who, if it's hard to break into the city, wouldn't these people want to vet the tenants that they have in their space, in their retail space? So she did research on me. She was watching me. She was probably watching my Facebook page. Everybody loved my Facebook. So she was probably watching my posts, reading the reviews, and doing her homework on me. I had no evidence of this, none, but it was happening. I had no evidence that the wealthy client that I told you about with his home, I had no evidence that he was buying another home for his wife and child. And I think they had other children too, for his children. I had no evidence of that. Okay. But that was happening too, probably while I was, who knows at what point. It really doesn't matter. The reason why I also elaborated on that is because when I first made the video a few years ago, some like knucklehead commented under the video and said, "Oh, your sugar daddy, this wealthy guy was attracted to you and wanted to, like, you're his chick on the side or something. He wanted to move you in. That's not a manifestation." So I remember that comment, and I deleted and blocked him, obviously. But I did want to elaborate on it in case that I just wanted to clarify that. Not that I have to, but I just wanted to, so you guys understood that it wasn't that kind of scenario at all. All right. So, how to manifest instantly? You are already manifesting instantly when you actually accept that you are good enough to be in the relationship with your specific person. When you stop wavering and questioning, do they like me? Are they attracted to me too? Do they love me too? Do they feel the same? Are they thinking of me? When you stop questioning and stop wavering and start allowing yourself to embody already being in the relationship, and then maybe you'll have thoughts and fears come up. It doesn't matter. If you trust in your 3D, which is just a reflection of your past identity, if you trust in that, then you keep yourself on a loop. So stop trusting in the reflection of your reality and instead trust what God planted in your soul, in your heart of hearts. One of my clients I just met with yesterday for the last session of her package, when she first started meeting with me, she was wanting to be with her mirror soul, her specific person. Whether she considers it a mirror soul or not, I'm actually not 100% sure. But she had only been with him once, but it was electrifying. A really great experience. She's not 100% sure how she feels. She went a little bit, you know, starting to research other things because she wants to restore a relationship that's very personal to her. And I'm not going to talk about her personal business in the video, but a couple things that I do want to mention. Through us working together, she ended up trusting in herself, quitting her career of I don't know how many years to go all in and have her own business basically doing the same thing. Very soon after starting, she's already bringing in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. She's not even worried about anything. She has zero doubt, but she still has doubt around her specific person. So she told me that she basically asked God for a sign. Then she ended up somehow coming in contact with she went somewhere and there was a sermon. The pastor was telling a story of how she manifested her person. So after the sermon, my client said she went and she talked to the pastor. And in so many words, her pastor said to her, "It's already created, it's already done." She used those exact words, "It's already done." So then I said to my client, "Okay, so you're telling me that you asked God for a sign, and then you ended up inspired to be in this, to witness this sermon, and the pastor told a story about how she manifested her person after a year of separation, having no evidence. You asked the pastor, and the pastor said to you, 'It's done.'" So that was your confirmation. But then my client kept doubting it. She also told me about a story that she learned also. I think it could have been the same sermon that she could be something different, doesn't really matter, but that she learned about this organization that was helping abused women, basically. And she said in the core of her, she was lit up inside and she donated what was equal to about $3,000 US dollars to this cause. And almost immediately, she ended up getting, I don't know, I think four new clients that equal to somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per client, something like that. And so we were talking about that. Well, that was because you weren't giving to get. You were giving from from wholeness. You listened to your heart and soul. That is God. That is God. God's not separate from any of us. And God speaks to us through our heart and soul. We're not separate from God. God is not a separate entity, and God is not a human with a personality and an ego. God is God. The creator is the creator. What did Rumi say? You are not just a mere drop in the ocean. You are the mighty ocean in the drop. I and my Father are one, but my Father is greater than I. There is no separation or division in consciousness. Consciousness, source, infinite intelligence, the creator created you with gifts, with seeds, with what you were created to do. When you don't know your value and worth, and you're listening to your ego and your fear, and you're waiting for a sign, it's almost like God is like, I'm waiting for you to trust in what I planted inside of your heart and soul. So stop waiting. If you enjoy signs, fine. If you enjoy confirmations, great. That's wonderful. It's beautiful. But please remember that simply because you had the desire in your heart and soul, that is your evidence. That is your proof. Now, if you don't want to be with someone, a specific person, that the experience was just infatuation, that it was just lust, that it was just sex, I hear you. But sometimes that's the case. And sometimes someone, they say, I actually want to be with my true love. I don't want to just be with somebody that if it is just limerence or just infatuation or just lust, I don't want something fleeting. So from a law of assumption perspective, you can be with your specific person regardless, but if you know that you are ready and wanting your true love, your mirror soul, your person, and if you yourself don't feel it deep down in your core that your person is this person, then stop trying to manifest them back and just instead focus on the qualities and traits of the person where you would feel happy, satisfied, and fulfilled in the relationship. Sometimes people will ask me, can you tell me if no, I can't. I can't. You have to know. It's something that you know in your heart and soul. I intend that this video provides some clarity that manifestation itself is instant because it already exists before you have the desire. And then, even if you don't see evidence of it, things are happening behind the scenes. And oftentimes, it'll just suddenly happen, whether you see evidence of it or not. But if you are consistently aware and embodying confusion, sadness, frustration, and seeking for evidence and not knowing, like in other words, you're in this waiting energy consistently, then all you need to do is go back in and stay in trust in what's in your core. Because if you're consistently in that energy I was just describing, then your reality is consistently showing you who you are being. Okay. Anyway, if you need my help, just reach out. I love you so much. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.